So welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Real Talk with Brendan Bartik. I'm really excited about the guest I have on today, Kazan Clark, who is an unbelievably successful real estate professional in the Denver Metro Front Range area. She's an amazing mom, wife, friend, coach, mentor for a lot of agents out there. And we're really excited to dive in. What we're going to be talking to her about today is a couple of very important subjects. You know, her transition into the real estate world, which I always think is important to find out how, she made that transition. She also runs her business with another real estate agent in a business partner type relationship. And we always get questions about, hey, should I start a partnership? Hey, should I start a team? If I'm vibing with an agent in my office, should we pair up and try to build this empire together? So we're going to talk to her about that stuff. We're going to dive in, find out how all the inner workings look, the good, the bad, the fun, all of that stuff. So without further ado, Kazan, welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to get to where you're at right now.
Hi, Brendan. Thanks for having me on. A little bit about myself. I was born and raised in South Africa and moved to Denver about 22 years ago, and just had a whole lot of adventures and things along the way. And then eventually about, I'm going to say just over 4 years ago, I was introduced to the world of real estate, and I haven't looked back.
Excellent. Okay. So about 4 years in the real estate business. And what were you doing before real estate?
A whole lot.
Okay.
I have two daughters. And so at the time before real estate, my primary role, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I, devoted all my energy to raising the girls. And then when they got a little bit older, I needed a little bit of a sense of adventure. And I have a very strong art background. In fact, I graduated from the School of the Arts in South Africa, my high school. So there was an opportunity for a brand new company that had just launched nationwide, actually, called Kazan Clark. So it was painting and drinking classes. And I was an instructor for them for many years, many, many, many years. It allowed me to work evenings and do what I love in painting and teaching, and then during the day be at home with the kids.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's a pretty interesting path to real estate. So from South Africa to mom to painting instructor to successful real estate agent. So
what's the gap?
What's that?
What was the gap? What got me from painting to real estate?
Yeah. What connected? Were you sitting there one day and you were like, hey, this just seems like the right fit for me?
Almost. Kevin and I, my husband and I, we're selling our first home and buying our second home. And we did what I think most people do, is interview real estate agents. And our first real estate agent that we interviewed was just not a good fit at all. And the second one was a phenomenal person. He was just a good human being. And he managed to bridge the gap between real estate and just being a nice person helping us through this transaction. And I said to Kevin, one day when I grow up, if I ever become a real estate agent, this is who I want to be like. And a year or two went by, and then I thought, you know what, let me give it a shot and see what it's all about. And that's what got me into real estate, meeting a really awesome human being who was a realtor.
I love it. Well, yeah, that would make you a lot more inclined to be motivated to do it. Was there any inhibitions about leaving the previous, world? And, did you and Kevin, your husband, sit there and go, hey, pros and cons? Or was it, hey, after this, you were like, I've always kind of had a thought about doing this, and not always, but now meeting this situation, I could see myself aligning and helping people. What was that conversation?
That conversation, it was actually Kevin that encouraged me to do it, because I love things real estate. I love decorating. I love homes. I love people. And the girls were older, and I was ready to take on that next step, that next adventure, that next thrill, that next passion. It was sort of a natural transition with Kevin's support. He was the one that said, go for it.
Right. And I think for a lot of people out there, that's probably the biggest piece, right? Is if you don't have that support from your significant other, it makes it extremely tough. So it sounds like he was a pinnacle part of making sure that this was possible.
Yeah, not just not just financially. It is, you do need the support of your friends and family, but also it's not an easy journey when you first start out, right? It's pretty daunting, and to have that emotional support, of course, it's phenomenal. Yes.
Yeah, it makes it a big difference. So 4 years into the business, the journey to where you're at now. If I were to ask you, what's your real estate agent philosophy, right? If someone were to look at you from the outside and be like, "Hey, this is the type of real estate agent you are," how would you explain that to people?
I would say the type of real estate agent I am is keeping it fun and exciting, right? I do believe that buying a home, especially a first time home, or even a second or third, it doesn't matter, is a very exciting experience. And I think that people tend to, because there's a lot of stress in it, the stress of moving and money and, big decisions. It's a life-changing decision, moving. In fact, that's one of the major stress factors in a human's life. So to bring the fun aspect of it, picking the most beautiful home that you can, and that it's a good fit for your family, I'd like to be a part of that experience, because the stresses come automatically, right? The lenders and the appraisers and the inspectors and all of that, those are stresses that are already there. So for me to bring back the joy of purchasing or selling a home to a family or an individual, that is me. That is me as a real estate agent.
I love it. So, in looking at that, if we were talking about your business and the majority of where your business comes from, where does the majority of all your buyers and sellers come from?
The majority of my business is referral business,
Gotcha.
100%.
Excellent. And with building that referral business, I think what you were saying there is obviously you can see and hear already how much passion you have for your clients, in doing that kind of, to be by referral, you have to make sure that they have an exceptional experience to do that. With that and kind of building that, talk to us a little bit about the inner workings. Are you doing client parties, or maybe before because of COVID? What are you doing to build this by referral business for those that are out there wondering, hey, I really want to, not be having to sit there and make cold calls and all this. What are you doing?
It's when you come to a country as a foreigner, or even if you're moving from out of state, you don't have the normal network of high school friends or elementary school friends, or even work colleagues to a certain degree. And so it's not that you have to work a little bit harder, but you have to find a different way to establish relationships and establish connections. And so what I typically do with my referrals is I try to find that one or two things that connects us together as potential long-term friends, as human beings, whether it be a work or a love of a certain kind of food, a nationality. Maybe it's someone that has an accent, just like me. I had a client that was from Ireland recently, and we found our common ground as foreigners in this country. So that is my ultimate goal, is to find that one thing on a deeper level than just, we both live in Denver or in Colorado or whatever, that connects us. And I constantly work that connection all the time. I bring it in throughout our experience when we're looking at homes, or when we're doing a listing consult, or we're getting the home ready for a listing. And that human connection, that constant nurturing of that single person. So yes, I have done client appreciation parties, but that's general, right? I will nurture that particular person's relationship that I have with them for years and years and years and years, whether it be through Facebook or Instagram or calls or coming over to our house for dinners or wishing them, congratulations on a new baby or a new pet. There's constantly a unique connection to that particular person. It's not a global blanket thing.
How do you keep it all organized? Because there's a lot in there, right? You're saying, are you keeping these notes in your head? I mean, talking about trying to be inside these people's lives to a certain aspect, how are you keeping track of all of it?
So that's the special thing about forming personal connections with people. You don't have to force it, right, Brendan? You don't have to force remembering that, for example, that this person likes skydiving. It's a part of the. I've done skydiving. My clients done skydiving. I don't have to remember this. It's an instantaneous, sincere connection.
Gotcha. So it's just more natural, basically.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's a natural flow of a connection with someone that you genuinely care about and want to be a part of their life, and they want to be a part of your life.
Gotcha. Excellent. So,
and Facebook helps as well.
Yeah, no, and I think, would you say that's
and
probably
Instagram.
would you say that's probably one of your biggest ways of staying connected is through Facebook, or is it phone calls,
Yes.
or is it a combination of all?
It's a combination of texting, Facebook, Instagram. Social media helps a lot, especially because my network is across the world, right?
Sure.
It's not just here in the States, South Africa, actually all over the world. So it's Facebook is phenomenal for that, and it's easy, and it gives you a lot of access to people's lives.
Gotcha. And then, so looking at it, so now 4 years into the business, if you could go back and tell yourself, 4 years ago, any pieces of advice, what would you tell yourself if you were just starting over again?
Follow the systems.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, with Keller Williams, they have great models and great systems. And I think if I could do it all over again, I would do those to the T, just because it gives you that discipline and that base. So when you're starting out, it's a little bit daunting because of, maybe a lack of experience and things like that. So it'll just give you that confidence. I had built up my career and my confidence in real estate over time. If I had to do it all over again, I would do that with the training programs that we have and things like that, so that it didn't have to take me 4 years to get where I am today. I probably would have got there sooner.
Yeah, I think we could all look back and say that for sure. So going back in time, it would have been more systems, more models. And, with your journey, I think what made you decide when you got into real estate, what connected you to your brokerage at that time? Was it a friend? Or I know a lot of people ask me all the time, how do you decide where to go? How do you pick?
That was actually probably one of the hardest things, because you as a new agent don't know what to ask and what you need. And I think initially it might have been, as for me with many agents, what's the commission structure? How much money am I going to get? And so the first company that I chose, I felt like I needed a little bit of hand holding, right? And so I connected on a personal level with the team lead of that company. It was not Keller Williams, it was another company. And it was good for the year that I was there, but I needed something more after that first year. I needed energy. I needed motivation. I needed people around me that were excited about this business like I was. And so Keller Williams found me, and I kind of resisted for a little bit because I'm not a huge fan of moving around. I'm extremely loyal. I'm a Scorpio. I'm extremely loyal. And eventually, Keller Williams, I had a couple of meetings with a company, and I realized that this was a good fit for me. The energy, the company, the training, everything that I needed, what I was looking for in a company, I found with Keller Williams.
I love it. So now, you're 4 years in, you have a business partner that you operate the day-to-day, business with. And I know we get so many people that are interested in going, hey, should I, usually it's around that third year, fourth year, sometimes depending on who the person is, second year mark, where you go, hey, I kind of vibe with this person. Should I join up with them? Should I stay and do my own thing? So talk to us a little bit about your business partnership and how that came to be.
It's a very unusual situation. And I think that people ask us all the time, so exactly what do you guys do together and how you do it? Now, remember when I told you earlier on, everything I do, I try and find that connection, that one thing that, and my partner and I, and we're unofficial partners, if that even makes sense. We're not a team. We don't do a lot of combined business together in terms of the monetary side of things. What we do is we offer each other unlimited support in our businesses, whether it be on a contract, whether it be negotiating with a client, whether it be assisting each other on deals. And how we met at Keller Williams through Ignite. And I've been in real estate a little bit longer, but I decided to do the Ignite program again just to get familiar with Keller Williams's models and things. And we built up an instant rapport. And the rapport was that of unconditional support, questions, anything with regards to real estate. We could pick up the phone and call each other, and we were there for each other. And so then the natural progression for us to work together in the office it wasn't even a question of how we're going to do it, should we do it. It was that connection with that one person in the office, could be two people as well, where they are there for you in your business. It's your office wife or your office husband, or whatever you want to call it. It's that person. And I've actually encouraged new agents to do that as well. You're going through this journey together. You have questions together. And so if you have someone to sound off on, and as you're both growing from nothing to something, you're growing together. So you're building your businesses together, which is how our partnership works.
Gotcha. Okay. So it kind of came out of you kind of just started vibing together. It wasn't like, you sought each other out, or you were missing something in your business and she was missing something in her business. It was it sounds like we were both on this same trajectory, or we both had the same commonalities. Is there something in her that complements you and vice versa? Or is it we just kind of vibe?
We're polar opposites.
Okay.
Completely. She is methodical, systematic, and she's very, very, she's a little bit more conservative on things than I am. I'm the complete opposite. And so we balance each other really, really well. For example, she was out of town, and she asked me to go on a listing appointment for her. It's her listing. I'm going on it. And I'm sitting there and I'm giving them all the, ins and outs about Keller Williams and everything like that. And I just thought, you know what? I just don't have these people. I just could not find that one thing that resonated me. And towards the end of the interview, I said to them, your listing agent's going to be in town soon. She was actually stuck on the ocean during those hurricanes that we had a couple of years ago. And I said, you're going to love her because she is A, B, C, D, because I knew what the connection was with her and them. And they loved her. They absolutely adored her. She got the listing. And so this is how we help each other out. It's some things suit my personality, and she'll bring me in, whether it be for a staging consult or whether it be, helping out on comps or whatever. Sometimes a client resonates better with me, sometimes with her, and vice versa. And this is how we support each other's business.
Okay.
We're complete opposites.
Gotcha. So that's important, right? That you're both kind of balancing each other out, and where you might not be as strong she is, and vice versa. So let's say a lead comes in, right? So a lead comes in, let's say it's a referral from a past client or whatever. Lead comes in to you. Are you both going on that appointment together? Is there a discussion about who does what? How does that work when a lead comes in?
So we run our own businesses 100%, right? And so if, for example, we do when we could do open houses together, we have found through various classes that we've attended here at Keller Williams, the benefit of two agents doing an open house, right? And so if we do an open house together and a lead comes in, it's very difficult to then determine who gets that lead. So that becomes a shared lead, right? And however that lead takes us, we share that lead 50-50. And once again, it does depend on who that client resonates more with. So in some cases, I might be more in the background. In other cases, she might be more in the background. It's whatever is going to make the client happy and who the client resonates with. That is the most important thing. And both of us run our business that way. Both of us run our business. The one thing we do have in common is that we have a relationship-based business. That is our sole focus, is
Right.
what's best for the client, whether it's me or her or both of us combined.
I love it. Okay. So then no financials are shared, nothing in regards to P&Ls or LLCs. It sounds right. So there's no legal or contractual agreement with either of you.
No, and I think that it works for us because we like each other. Number one, we trust each other, and we may eventually get that way. The pressure of going that way straight away and trying to make it work, and as we're trying to figure out our places in our business, I think would probably not have resulted in us having the successful partnership that we do. Right?
Gotcha.
So is the ultimate goal for us to eventually maybe do a more formal partnership and get a team going and all of that? Maybe down the road. But this works for both of us in our businesses. We do share some of the administrative things on a shared listing, right? If we send out our just sold postcards or just listed postcards, or if we purchase a sign that with both our names on it. Those are all things that we share a transaction coordinator. So those are things we do share. Well, actually not me, she does. She keeps the spreadsheet because I'm not a spreadsheet person. And she just keeps us nice and items that we need for staging, a welcome mat or a closing gift. Those are things that we do share on a shared listing.
Yeah, and I think for most people, it sounds like to be able to make this work, you have to come from a place of abundance. And I think a lot of agents go into these partnerships or teams or structures with a real sense of scarcity. And they're going, hey, if this happens, I get this. And then you do that, and I get this. And from what I'm hearing is, again, if you were to try to structure it that way, it would almost kind of ruin the culture of what you guys have going on if it was literally A plus B equals C. So basically, you guys both just come from a place of let's do the best thing for the clients together,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll figure it out behind the curtains later. Is that
Yes, but more importantly, both of us came from a position where our businesses are solid, right? So for us to join our certain aspects of our business, there's no need for the other one to feel that they're the one that's bringing in the money and the other one's piggybacking, right? We're both
sure?
successful on our own. And so it's a special relationship that needs to have a very, very strong foundation, a deep level of trust and a deep level of honesty and friendship, right? And a mutual respect for how I run my business, which is completely different to the way she runs her business. And then when you have a respect for the other person and how they do their business, when you come together with a mutual client, what happens then is automatically in our case, it's unspoken that she's stronger on the contracts, the logistics, the detail. She's way stronger than I am on that. I'm stronger on the nurturing, the finding that connection, making the client literally fall in love with us. walking around the house, telling the client how to stage the home. That's my strength. And we know that, and we'll go in beforehand. She's like, okay, this is your baby. You need to handle this one. This is going to be a difficult one. And then it's game on.
Wow. So then next steps, as you were kind of even, preluding to earlier, is now as you start to both get bigger and bigger businesses separately and together, would the next step, in your opinion, be an assistant? Do you see you guys forming a true LLC at some point? What does that look like?
We have just recently brought on a part-time assistant. And once again, we're trying to figure out what's going to work best for both of us because of our different our style of doing things. But we've had an incredible year, individually and collectively. And we definitely found the need now that it's time for an assistant, because without an assistant and without a transaction coordinator, who suffers? The client, right? We just cannot maintain that high level of personal attention with how busy we are. So yes, I think ultimately we will, if all goes well, if we have another good year like we did this year, we will go towards making it more formal, because we're starting to iron out how we're doing this and all of that. And this is what's so fun about this informal partnership. We're ironing it out.
Yeah, you're discovering it along the way. So on the other side of that, what have been some of the trials and tribulations of this situation? What are some maybe red flags? Because we all know that it always sounds like it's all strawberries and puppy dog tails, but has there been any trials? Is there what should people be concerned about?
You can't predict every single situation. And so as you go along, you have to learn how to handle a situation. And then there's no rule book for it, because as you know, every single real estate deal is different. Every client is different, right? And so I'm trying to think of what, and her and I both have very, very strong personalities. So It's trying to, on some things, it's not that easy just saying, okay, well, you do all the contract stuff and I do all the kumbaya, let's party things and put a sign in your yard. But sometimes the client resonates more with her on that level as well, right? We recently did a deal together with a client 100% resonated with her on everything. And so then what is my role in it, or what is her role in it if I'm only dealing with the agents on the buy side because they resonate more with me? And there's no rule book for that. And so I think how we do it is we've always, with everything in our business, have very, very honest conversations. Right. And that is paramount, right?
So just like a regular relationship, right? If you're dating somebody, hey, we've got to be honest. We've got to be, forthcoming with each other. It's not always going to go well. There's going to be days that you have a bad day. I'm sure she has a bad day. How do you stay calm? Because I know, again, in certain situations, I've seen partnerships blow up, right? To the point where they're not even friends anymore. The other person took money that the other person thought belonged to them. The other person took the other person's database. You hear all these stories, and I've had people come to me, really where they were just at their breaking point, and neither party, just like a relationship, could just see that all they had to do was just give a little bit, right? Give just a little bit. But it was like a divorce. So is there any fear of that happening, or how do you feel that you two will be able to avoid that? And what does that look like?
I think that someone very, very wise told me some information a couple of weeks ago. Someone with the initials BB told me that it's best to, before you go into a situation, to kind of get an idea of the expectations of either party, because you don't know how you're going to be able to control it once you're in it, because you're dealing with humans, right? You're dealing with
Right.
people and emotions and money and COVID and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Those are all variables that you can't control. What you can control is the expectation of the two of you of how you're going into it. And if that expectation isn't met at certain points, you can adjust it, right?
Sure.
It's not black and white, but at least to have that conversation before on there's certain things that we can control in a contract and there's certain things we can't. What is the expectation of what we're going to do when we go in? And if we hit a little stumbling block, we have that conversation then instead of having that conversation in hindsight when what hits the fan.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
Can I say that? Can I say that word?
Yes, you can. Yeah, this is
When can I say when it hits the fan?
You can say whatever you want, which I love. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about the podcast world and YouTube is we really don't have to have any filters, which is awesome. So looking at that, then, now you have a business wife and you have a real life husband, right? So the balance between, we all know in this real estate industry that it takes a lot of time, right? And it takes a lot of this. How does that work with the home life? How does that work with the balance, right? Because you probably almost spend more time with your business partner some weeks than you do with your life partner, right? So how do you handle that stress?
So anyone that is in my life to that level, right, whether it be friends or business partners or work colleagues, I have a connection with that person. And so then if I have a connection with that person then comes, I introduce them into my life and vice versa. So my business partner has met my husband, has met my children, and they have a relationship. They are, I wouldn't call us, extreme house friends, but I know her husband, I know her family, her nephew. I've had conversations with her extended family. And so there's a certain level of tolerance because we both work so hard at such long hours that when the family members, my husband or her husband, sees that we're doing this together or there's an understanding, because there's a familiarity, they know this person. It's not just an office where you're not familiar with who you're working with. And there's a mutual respect. I think her husband is wonderful and she, I think, thinks mine is wonderful as well, because we have a mutual respect for each other and our significant people around us and our office colleagues as well. So that, it's not just her and I in the office. There's 150, 200 people in this office.
Yeah.
So there's a mutual respect for all of us because of our relationship. It's almost like, she must be really awesome because I like Kazan and Kazan likes her.
Sure.
It's just, you gravitate. It's the universe, Brendan.
Yes, the universe indeed. So, and speaking of that, so you believe greatly in the universe, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about that. Where did that sense of spirituality come from? And because it's a big part of your life, right? The way that you look at the world. So if I'm an outsider looking in and I say, again, this is a very stressful business, and there's all this stuff. You always seem to be pretty chill. How do you keep that abundance mindset or just not batshit crazy mindset?
It was a conversation about just over a year ago that I had with one of my girlfriends, right? And she was going through a little bit of a rough time. And I'd remember from, I don't know, was it the 90s that Oprah came out with this book called The Secret?
Yeah.
And it just dawned on me that she needs to read The Secret. So I'm like, well, if you're going to read it, I might as well read it with you again. Because it's been a while since I'd heard or read about it or even watched the movie. And so I bought it on tape to listen to in the car, on audio. And there's just something in the book that resonated with me, in that if whatever you put out in terms of positive energy, you're going to attract that energy. And so then I went to Greece, and that changed my life, right? Because the way the Greeks live and the Greek philosophy is all about that. It's about giving, but not physically giving, just giving yourself in a positive light, and it comes back in abundance. And so that was my whole 2019, and I was all ready for 2020 going, yes. And then 2020 happened.
Right.
But I think what I do is, even in a negative situation, I literally consciously say to myself, I need to reset my universe. If I'm focusing on something negative, if I'm feeling negative, or something negative is happening, if I reset it, if I think about how this is going to work in a positive way, it usually does.
Right. And when working with clients, right? So if we're taking that into the real estate world, when you're getting, difficult scenarios and you bring that kind of energy, where I've seen agents struggle, and I mean really struggle, is they take on the pressure and stress of the client and they'll just stew there all day. They'll be scared to pick up the phone. They'll be scared to address the issue. From what I hear you saying, it's more of just, so how when you have to have a difficult conversation with a client, how do you pick up that phone and go, great, I gotta fix this closing with that, where does that confidence come from?
Empathy for what the client is going through. Okay. And so when you have empathy, if you're really feeling empathy, that this person is just about to invest, $500,000, which is a huge investment for anyone, and it's going to go south. That instant empathy for what you're about to tell that person and how they're going to perceive it. It's like giving anyone bad news. It's when you have to give a friend bad news, or say having an uncomfortable conversation with a friend, it's not really that uncomfortable, right? Because sure. You know that person, you know how to speak to that person, you know how to convey the message. So it's the same with a client. I take their money and their livelihood and their family situation very, very seriously. And so it's just having empathy, and then the tone of your voice and the, what, Brendan, I think the most important thing is, gosh, you're making me think here now, because it's so hard to put this into words, right? I think that it is honestly being real, right? If you try and sympathize or empathize with someone and you don't genuinely feel it, you're just regurgitating words that you're supposed to say or that you've learned and things like that, someone they'll pick up on it.
Yeah,
right?
Clients, and when I hate to use that word clients, because I think most of your clients are friends or much better word than that, but they can sniff out insincerity, right? They
Correct.
can really sniff out and go, BS, bullshit, salesy person, douchebag. And I don't think a lot of people are aware of themselves doing that. But I think what I would imagine some of our listeners are going, well, that all sounds great, Kazan, because you do a buy referral business, but you haven't dealt with some crazy internet lead that I had that, it doesn't work the same when it's not buy referral. What would you say to that?
I have dealt with a few of those, and I think that it's a lot to do with, if you have an ego going into this deal saying every single referral I'm going to crush it and I'm going to close the deal, then it's your ego that you're putting first, not the client, right? Mm-hmm. And so I recently had an experience with an online lead, and there was just something about us that was just not gelling, right? Her expectations were a little bit unrealistic, and I'm being super nice.
Sure, sure. We've all had it.
I just could not meet that expectation. And instead of stringing her along, that's being insincere, I had to have the conversation with her, but now we were established a little bit of a rapport, right? And so the conversation was very like, hey, it's me just checking in to see how you're doing. I have some concerns about, it's not like, this is Kazan, I have some bad news for you. You know, you're unrealistic.
Right.
There's no friggin' way we can ever do this in Denver. Are you kidding me? So to have an honest conversation with someone that you're not having a very good rapport with is being honest with yourself, going, it's okay for me to say, you know what, I just can't help you. I'm just not in the position to be able to help you. And I will gladly refer you to someone that can help you. So that's putting my ego aside and admitting that it's not wrong that I can't help this person. It's not wrong that I have to give away a deal. It's just that I'm not able to serve the client.
Sure.
And if I put the client's needs first, my needs second, then that's not such a difficult conversation to have.
Yeah, I think a lot of us get to the point where we'll grind, and try to shove that square peg in that round hole with a client into the fact of where every day I see agents just terrified to have to call this person or do this. And I understand it that people have to make money. You have to do certain things to take care of yourself. But I say you waste so much time on that client where, like you just said, you could say, I'm not the right fit. So let me give you to someone else, get maybe a referral fee from them, hopefully, maybe not. Either way, hopefully a referral fee, and move on and spend that energy and that time and effort on finding somebody that fits your type of business, right? So I think that's extremely hard for people to do. I really think that they struggle.
Yeah, especially if you're new and this is your first client or your second client. And, the commission structure, for whatever reason, it's a low purchase price. And so you want that one to work no matter what, right?
Right.
Then I would say, find your person in your office, in your broker, find your partner like I have, and say, listen, I'm not gelling with this person. I need some help here. And, and if you find your person, hopefully they won't charge you.
Right.
But,
yeah. And be honest about just
support.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Being ready to pull that cord if you have to, and not, again, just tormenting yourself with this experience. So then looking at that now and in your business, right? If you were looking at it and saying, hey, when I look at my business all around, I'm super proud of, obviously, the way you take care of your clients. Is there something that, even with your business partner, that you're hoping to work on and get better at in the next, either the rest of this year or in the years to come? What is it that you feel like you want to work on and get and improve?
I'd like to obviously to grow my business. I do believe that growing and growth in your personal life and your business is important. But I would like to find a way to grow it that I can still have integrity and be true to myself. And I'm going to need to rely on the support of, my office and my leaders in the office and things like that, because it's not one of those cookie cutter things, right? It's a little bit of a free spirited, like a little bit of a gypsy thing.
Sure.
And so I'd like to find out how I can grow my business and yet still be me.
Right. Keep the personal integrity and the relationships and do all that. And I think that's the challenge that most people have, right? Is they go, hey, yeah, I could be selling 100 homes, 200, 500 homes, but would I enjoy it? Right. And the money's great and it's cool, but it comes with a lot of garbage too that comes with that. And so I think it's so interesting in our real estate business how there's so many different ways to do this business, from quasi partnership to actual team to individual. So, and now with you guys, now we're getting your part-time assistant or transaction manager to start helping provide those leverage points. Those are the biggest pieces moving forward, is just what are those next leverage points that are going to enhance my business? Because again, without growth, you don't want to just sell 50 houses every year or whatever your number is, 25, 10, for anybody else out there, whatever their number is, because then it just kind of gets boring, right? And I think from what we've heard from you, you enjoy a bit of excitement, right?
Well,
Right?
and I love what I do,
Yeah.
and I want to continue to love what I do. And I also like to keep in mind, why am I doing this, and how much is enough, right? How much money is enough? And I know you and I have had discussions about this
Sure.
before.
Sure. Right.
But what are you doing with that? Or is your goal to put it away and save it, or do you want to travel? Well, say for example, your goal is traveling, right? I love to travel. Well, if I'm so busy making money to travel, but I don't have the time to travel, then what's the point?
Well, it's not only the time, it's when you're traveling, how stressed are you?
Correct.
Right. That's the thing
Yes,
that
you're
people don't
working while you're
see.
traveling.
Oh,
Mhm.
they don't see that for a lot of people. And I think that's for all realtors, whether you're doing a ton or not. There's always that constant anxiety of, am I taking care of everybody enough? Am I following up with my emails? Am I doing all this? Because the transition from a 9 to 5 to this world there is no clock, right? That 9 disappears, the 5 goes away, and you literally live. It's a lifestyle. And so looking back then, with that being said, and just that exactly right, that it is a lifestyle. Looking at your life, would do you think you would wish that you would have maybe started earlier in real estate? Do you think you've timed it kind of just right? Do if looking back, would you have said, hey, I wish I would have jumped in, right after I had my first daughter or right after I got married? Do you feel that way? Or are you like, hey, I like the way I did it?
I think that this is not for me personally, it's not a one size fits all answer. I've seen really successful agents right out of college, some not even going to college, right out of high school. For me, the timing for it was great because it was basically a second career, right? At a different stage in my life, because I bring a different set of rules in terms of my life experiences and situations that I've been in and my knowledge and things like that. So a certain level of maturity, for lack of a better word, because I'm probably think I'm the least mature person.
Sure.
So, but yeah, I think I don't regret uh, starting out when I did in my, early 40s at all, not at all, because I I was able to bring something to the table. So people that are maybe thinking of starting this as a career later in life, what a great career. You have a certain level of confidence, and maybe you're even financially maybe a little bit more secure, and then you can have fun with it.
But if I'm also looking at it and I'm saying, hey, okay, I'm 40 or 35 or 55 or whatever it is, I think we've both seen a lot of people get into the business that shouldn't have, right? Let's be honest, right? And maybe that's kind of cold to say, but we see people sometimes and they come into it with the wrong expectation. I think you came into it with, again, talking about your view on the universe and the secret and a mindset. We see sometimes people make that decision that come into this business that are just, hey, I don't like people, right? Right. We see this, right?
Yeah.
I don't like people. I'm super, super right-brained and introverted. And even though I'm saying there's still people that can have success like that, but then they come into it because they thought that this was going to be this amazing, glorious experience, and they
Easy
get,
money.
yeah, easy money. It's such easy money. And they get very frustrated very quickly. What should be the deciding factor for you to leave your previous life or career and do this? Give us some tidbits on what do you got to be into?
I think you don't have to be an extrovert necessarily, but you've got to have a personal drive, a need to personally grow and succeed. And whether that success is um, money, or that success is developing real relationships where you remember people's names, whatever makes you get up in the morning and makes you go, wow, today's going to be a good day, whether you've got a client or not. The mere fact that you can work in this industry and you can go and look at houses and you can go to an office, meet people that you in your office that you enjoy socializing with. I think that if you don't have a reason to want to go out and be you,
right,
whether you're an introvert or an extrovert or whatever. And it's not that I wake up and I'm like, yes, today I'm going to be a real estate agent.
Sure.
But today I'm going to meet people in the real estate industry, people that I work.
Yeah, like you said, today I'm going to make maybe a new relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that's where I see with you, and it even opened my eyes a lot to how I look at things is everybody's a possible new relationship, not necessarily a friend, right? But a relationship in some form or fashion. So then looking at that, then what is it about the business that you can't stand? Like, what's the hard part about the biz?
But for me, the hard part about the business is that there are people that you work with in this industry that are just in it for the money.
Sure.
And that's not to discount someone else's motivation for being in this business. But it's hard when you're relationship driven and you're working with people and this is their dream home, and the person on the other end that you have to work with is just an ass. Yes. You know, I mean, it's like there's no compassion, there's no human, there's no returning phone calls, there's no consideration. And when you lose that aspect of real estate, it literally becomes bricks and mortar. Right. And bricks and mortar don't sell and buy each other. Humans do, people do. And so that's the part of real estate that I'm fortunate there's not many people that I've come into contact like that. Once again, I channel my universe. I'm like, okay, this person's going to be awesome to work with. We're going to close the deal. But there are a few out there.
Sure. I think what people don't realize is you have to be almost a psychologist to be a really successful real estate agent, right? It's all a psychological, not to say battle, that's not the right word, but it's a psychological experiment 90% of the time with the people we're dealing with on the other side of it. You know, what I also know, you know, in talking to you quite a bit is you're a really good problem solver. Right? Like you can come up with a solution to get to the finish line. So has it always been that way? Was that a skill that's gotten better with being a real estate agent? I mean, I feel like that's a piece that people don't talk about a lot is come into real estate. It's great. You're going to make all this money. And if you don't have the ability to quickly solve problems at a very, very high and rapid rate while keeping empathy and not being a prick, it's going to be a long road. So how did you become a great problem solver?
Well, I do have a degree in psychology, but that aside, okay, I mean, that it does help to be able to read people and understand people. But I do have a philosophy, and sometimes it may be misguided, that I don't easily take no for an answer, no matter what. Okay. And so until it's no in black and white, it's fine.
There's always a chance.
If there's a hint or a slight like pause, if there's an I'm in. Because I always believe that anything can be solved with money, with conversation, or with empathy, right?
Sure.
So if you understand the situation and you get it, there's your empathy. If you understand the situation and you get it, and you need to have a conversation about it. Parties are going to agree or disagree. There's a conversation. To understand the situation, there's empathy and there's a conversation. How much money are we going to do to fix it?
Right. And also sometimes time, right? Sometimes it just might take a little bit. You got to let people chill out for a second. And I think in our business, right, you just got to be like, hold on, let's chill for a minute and let everybody simmer down. So, well, that's awesome. So for everyone out there, Kazan, and again, can't thank you enough for joining us. So how do people connect with you? Because obviously, if I wanted to buy or sell a home, I'd want it to be with someone like yourself. What's the best way for me to reach out to you? Phone number, email? We're going to put all this below. What's the best way to connect with you?
Honestly, phone call. I love to talk on the phone. I love to text as well. And yeah, I appreciate you putting the information up, and or Facebook or Instagram would be great as well. And I just want to form relationships and realize, Brendan, I didn't tell you this earlier on, but when I arrived in America, I literally arrived here with 2 suitcases, with my husband and I, right? And we started from scratch, got an apartment, and he got a job here, and off we went.
And where was that at? Where was that?
I was here in Denver.
In Denver. Okay,
in
so straight to Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so to be able to, over time, build a life and buy a home and then buy a second home, it's ultimately the American dream, right?
Sure.
And so my motivation is that everyone should be able to realize the American dream, not just foreigners or, people coming in. Anyone should be able to buy real estate,
right,
to own a home, anyone. And so I love connecting with people that ultimately want to buy a house and make it a home.
Right.
I do.
And cherish that experience, right? And not make it a transaction and just,
God, no.
Hey, you're another number in my database and
Nope.
bada bing, bada boom, right? It's.
And we've spoken about that. You've asked me about my database.
Yeah, no. And it's tough, right? Because that's the main difference of what, separates. And I think it's also a quality of life for you, is, as you said, is if you really can dial in that type of situation. And we'd love to have you back again in the future, because I know there's all kind of cool things that you and your business partner do, and you're highly connected in the community, highly connected in your office. You do all kind of fun things to not only make this career fun, but make it so that, like you said,
it counts.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah, that it counts.
Thank you.
So again, for everybody out there, reach out to Kazan if you're looking to buy or sell a home in the Front Range area. She's an absolute, just the best of the best. You'll never regret it. We'll have all of her contact information in the bio below. Connect with her on social media, see what she's up to, talk to her about her experience. If you're an agent out there wondering, hey, should I be looking to do a business partner arrangement? Kazan, I'm assuming that you're totally fine with people connecting with you to ask you questions and fun things.
100%.
Yeah,
of course.
She's definitely a person of abundance. So again, can't thank you enough. As always, for everyone out there, we wish you great success.